Good afternoon. I'm Greg Lassiter. Welcome to 30 Frames a Second. We have a great show for you today, so don't touch that dial. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Thank all of you who have been so heroic in saving our neighborhoods through this HDFC opportunity. You know, this was born in an era when our communities were abandoned. Yes. Let me back up. Yes. Raped and then abandoned. Yes. Slumlords milked our homes, walked away, and the apartments fell into the hands of the city. And lo and behold, the city was overwhelmed. Overwhelmed to such an extent that it was almost indicted for negligence, because clearly the condition of their homes, the conditions of the neighborhoods were far beyond what anybody would have understood until such time that it fell into their hands. But heroically, the residents of the neighborhood, the tenants in those buildings, determined to stay and to make a better day, developed a movement to save their homes, to force the city to reclaim those homes from the slumlords, and then force the city to take responsibility that the slumlords would not take. And as a result, a movement started of tenants, organized, mobilized, visionary about the opportunity to restore their communities by restoring their homes in an affordable and, frankly, ownership way. And for those that could not handle ownership, affordability, and responsibility in some way in terms of the decision-making of the property was also a part of the arrangement. Our city was in blight. Those communities now are in high demand. Where folks would not dare come, they can't get away, they cannot stop coming. That's right. And in fact, some of the folks that I represent in HDFCs are wondering if they're coming back to take back the homes that they restored and that they now own. Or if not own, at least are managing it themselves. And so this has been a remarkable, a miracle, so to speak, in the era of blight in certain communities. An era when even the rats did not want to be around. And I know, because I did a lot of work on rats in that time. And so to suggest in any way whatsoever that these heroes and sheroes of these communities are now are under the threat of taking back those homes, their homes, that have not only restored the neighborhood, but have created such a miracle that people from all over want to live in these neighborhoods now. You know, there was a time when a person would get off on 116th Street and Lenox Avenue, and they would see me, and they would look around at some of those homes before you got in them and restored them and now own them. They would look around and they would say to me, "Sir, how do I get over there to Broadway?" And I would tease them and say, "You got to walk through that park, that Morningside Park, that miracle of a park, that at the time was as abandoned as the homes. And nobody in their right mind would walk across that park to go up those steps to go to Columbia University, even if it was a full scholarship as well as a stipend." And so this miracle, give yourselves a round of applause. Say it like you mean it. Save our homes. Save our homes. Save our movement. We saved our community. It's our community. It's our homes. It's our city. They ain't gonna take it back. And it's very important. It's very, very important, because what you have done witnessed by your children, witnessed by your grandchildren. This is heritage now. This is beyond just ownership. This is beyond just affordable. This is like legacy. This is tradition. This is what saved our city. Now you can't get people from not getting off at 116th Street and Lenox Avenue, in El Barrio, East Harlem, and walking around. They're not just tourists anymore. They're looking for the opportunities that you created. and they got a good reason to want them. But we're not letting these opportunities be taken from those who pioneered and made for a better day. Today's a beautiful sunny day. Back then, it was a very cloudy day. It was a very cloudy day. We had no lights in some instances in the evening. And we had more rats then than you could imagine. I'm talking about the four-legged ones, not just the two-legged ones. Right. We had a rat epidemic, and I became the rat man, by the way. Yes. So I'm just saying, this movement is very, very important for our city. It's very, very important for our children, for our grandchildren. Any effort, any suggestion is blight. Is blight, and we have to fight. We have to fight. Because to do that would be sinful, because people took a chance where nobody else would take a chance, but made something happen now that everybody else wants, and we can't let that happen. So thank you very much for your strength. Thank you very much for your vision. Thank you very much for your movement that restored our city as we restored our communities. Little by little, the bird builds its nest. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to 30 Frames a Second. We're back from the holidays. Well, at least I am. And I'm here with the creator of the show, Nat Wood. Nat, welcome back.
I'm back from the holidays too, brother.
How was your holiday, first of all?
It was excellent. It was excellent.
Let's talk about the HDFCs.
Right.
It has worked in New York.
Yes. Yes.
It has worked. Let the HDFCs let the New Yorkers, let the world know what HDFCs are.
Well, as Councilman Perkins so aptly put it, HDFCs started the end of the 70s. And a lot of buildings in a lot of very, very crime-ridden, depressed neighborhoods, a lot of Black and Latino neighborhoods, had property that were abandoned by landlords, slumlords, mostly because of taxes, tax evasion. They would just abandon the buildings. And it was a big push to have a lot of property condemned. There was a lot of burnt out property. And what happened was the city found itself in possession of a whole lot of property all over New York. Right. Not just Manhattan, not just Harlem, but all in the Bronx and Brooklyn. And a lot of these places were occupied, and they had overwhelming housing violations to deal with. And the city, by being the landlord of record now, was culpable in, and
making the violations come
right. So they needed an alternative. What they came up with was a tenant interim lease program. Back when we had housing lawyers and real live legal aid back in the 70s.
That can help. That actually did some good.
That could help. A lot of these lawyers help facilitate an agreement with the city where the tenants in these very, very depressed, crime-ridden buildings and neighborhoods would actually take over management of their buildings. And it took 25 years before ownership even
They couldn't even get ownership.
Right. Well, before it even came to the table, they didn't automatically get ownership after 25 years. You had to wait 25 years after you went from tenant interim lease to which is the TIL program.
Right.
And went through different phases. When you finally got, and it took a few years before you got to the phase of it where you were a legitimate tenants association and now were eligible to be HDFC. So it was like 30 years before you even had the opportunity.
Well, in essence, what happened was the lawyers for the legal aid for the tenants worked out a leasing agreement.
Correct.
With the tenants. The tenants had to form an association.
Correct.
And when they formed the association, then they had to go back to the city and say, this is the agreement. We're going to take care of our buildings, and in turn, we're going to pay X number of dollars. But after our equity and sweat into our neighborhood, it says that after this belongs to us.
And that's a very big issue that you brought up, sweat equity.
Right.
Because one of the biggest burdens that they put on the tenants and the tenant associations was that you couldn't really make money.
Right.
And you had to not only manage the building, but you had to bring everything up to code.
Right.
So
that's kind of a catch-22 situation.
It was very, very difficult because you had very, very poor people.
Right. That didn't have any money
that
anyway.
Didn't have any money anyway.
Right.
Didn't have any working knowledge of how to run buildings. Make sure the oil is in. Had an inordinate amount of violations. Violations up the wazoo.
Which had to bring up the code.
Correct. In neighborhoods that were burnt out and depressed anyway.
Wow.
So it was literally an impossible mission.
Well, they were setting you up to fail.
At the time.
Well, they were saying that, but they can't do it anyway. So they were trying to set them up to fail.
Well, there's two people you don't bet against. You don't bet against somebody with unlimited funds, and you don't bet against somebody who got nothing to lose.
That's exactly right. Far ends of the spectrum, right? So what happened was when they decided to put the lease together for the HDFCs, this contract ran 25 years.
Right. Now, and it took like 4 or 5 years before you even got to that stage
so you're looking
where you were
at 30
eligible.
Years.
Right.
So
looking
now,
at 30 years before they had a whole lot of other stipulations that they wanted you to agree to. They like nitpicked and stuff and tried to fine tune. So it was 30, 35 years before finally you had to sign on the dotted line.
But in essence, what the city wanted you to do was bring these buildings up to code, live there, make these neighborhoods respectable again, and then say get out.
They wanted you to fail and get out.
Right. So after you brought it up to code.
Right. And that way they could say, well, we gave them an opportunity. They're just losers.
That was under the Koch administration, wasn't it?
Yes. I mean, I mean, there was a whole lot of administrations.
Right. But Koch during the late 60s and 70s.
Well, Koch set into motion the urban renewal platform that everyone saw coming. And there were a lot of politicians at the time who had opportunities afforded them by big real estate developers to sell out the communities.
Now the HDFCs now it's 40, 50, 60 years later.
Right.
Now these are respectable. We're talking about Morningside Heights, which is up by
now
Columbia University.
Gorgeous communities.
Yes, and which you can't buy if you went to buy
completely renovated apartments.
If you went to buy an apartment there, it would be nothing less than $1 million.
Yeah, nothing less than $1 million.
You're talking about one of the top universities in the country, or in the world for that matter. So now the government's trying to come back and say, you get out.
Correct. Well, one of the problems with de Blasio is that de Blasio is a guy who plays both ends against the middle.
Right.
He plays as your friend when it benefits him, and he sides with the real estate developers when it's in their best interest.
Right.
One of the things that went in favor of HDFCs was the fact that it was a grassroots political movement that also had, through the years, like we've seen mayors come, we've seen them go.
Right.
But they've had support from various people in city council, various local politicians. So the rat man himself, Bill Perkins, has been fundamental in that. Mark Levin of District 7, Margaret Cho down in Chinatown.
They
got
even
a couple of
the Lower East Side.
Oh, of course. The Lower East Side has a whole lot of HDFCs.
Right. So
you couldn't tell it to go through the East Village now because everything is very, very hoity-toity.
Right, very expensive. Very expensive. Right.
But there are a lot of people who gave their life's blood.
Wasn't Stuyvesant Town an HDFC?
No, Stuyvesant Town was a straight co-op.
But it was a project at first, though, right?
Yes.
And that's what's happening with people. Don't understand NYCHA.
Right.
Because Stuyvesant Town was part of NYCHA, right?
Correct.
So now Stuyvesant Town is, they consider it affordable housing, but most America wouldn't consider it affordable housing.
NYCHA is in the fight of their life.
Right, because that's what they're trying to do in the projects or housing around the city.
Right.
It's trying to do a Stuyvesant Town co-op to throw out all the poor people.
Correct.
But my thing is this: in the black communities around the country, HDFCs would work, like places like Detroit. How come, this is obviously a successful program in New York City. I would say something like this would work in the various urban neighborhoods in the various metropolitan cities like Detroit, Chicago.
Opportunities work, especially with people who are used to struggling and overcoming in the first place.
Right.
So as soon as you afford black, Latino, Asian communities, black people, Asian people, people of color all over, as soon as you afford them opportunities to succeed, they tend to become overachievers.
Right.
The biggest achievement is getting the opportunity in the first place.
Right.
You got to fight like hell to get the opportunity. So once you get the opportunity,
don't screw it up.
Right. Well, there's some people that just screw ups. That they're not looking for opportunities. They think something is slick going on, but that's
that
actually right. That's their
mentality.
Mentality, and the way that big money operates is that it uses the handful of people with that mentality as some sort of validation, verification that the whole group is messed up, and that allows them to pull back opportunities from the group.
But see, here's the issue too, Nat. NYCHA is fighting for their life right now.
Yes.
And Bill de Blasio is playing both ends against the middle.
Correct.
And that's why I ran into a fan, a viewer of ours, and she's in the projects in East Harlem. And she said, I said to her, you know what? You guys don't know that. You see what Stuyvesant Town did? All those poor people that lived in Stuyvesant Town had to get out. If you had either had to buy into the co-op with money or get out. It wasn't about sweat equity in Stuyvesant Town. Either these are the opportunities that we're going to try to provide to you, and you're either going to get it or you got to move. NYCHA, that's what they're doing with NYCHA. And that's what I tell people all the time. If you're in a public housing, you need to form your own association.
See, one of the problems with the tenants in NYCHA buildings, when you talk about NYCHA, you're talking about vast areas of projects.
Right.
So you're talking about a whole lot of people. And with NYCHA, you're talking about people who worked in government.
Right. City government.
So you have a whole lot of property.
Right.
And a whole lot of people with superior skill sets.
Right.
If they actually took over control and with a mind for collective success, not just a mind for because
individual,
anytime you are involved in something like this and your mindset is just totally skewed toward individualism, they'll pick you apart and destroy the whole thing.
Right.
But if NYCHA had actual control, real control over their property, over their co-ops, and utilize the incredible, like I said, in many cases, superior skill set that they have. You're talking about a lot of property.
We live on the east side.
Right.
You and I live on the east side, right? So from Lower East Side, like some of the projects have the best views on the East River.
Right.
Now
that is correct.
Going up First Avenue.
That is correct.
Going up Second Avenue, going down Second Avenue, and back up Third, all the way to 116th on the east side, are nothing but projects with great views.
And you're talking about, you're not just talking about money. You're talking about wealth. Because in project complexes, you're talking about generational wealth. You're talking about like parents, grandparents, grandchildren,
but the whole
controlling large areas. You're talking about a paradigm shift.
But it's crazy because you look at the whole project, NYCHA housing. Each project has its own infrastructure.
Correct.
You know, so you don't have to. Yes, there's grocery stores, but you got laundromats in most project buildings, and some of the projects even have wash and dryers in their own place. So you got a whole infrastructure there.
And you're talking about whole city blocks.
Oh, we're talking about
And you're talking about generations raised in that city blocks who now value their property in terms of ownership and legacy.
Right.
He said so himself. We're talking about, we've gone past ownership. After 40 years, you're talking legacy now.
That's right, That's exactly
when you have that mindset, a lot of the problems that you have in your communities would just dissipate.
If you took care of your community.
If you thought of it as your community as opposed to you playing out the string in somebody else's community waiting for the axe to fall.
But that's what I don't understand. This is why I tell people I run into, because being a community leader in East Harlem, I tell these guys, you got Carver, you got Washington, you got all these projects up there. I said, guys, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. We're talking about Madison Avenue from 104th, from 96 to 104th Street, up by Mount Sinai. And those are all, there's at least 20 buildings that are NYCHA housing projects up there.
When you have control of that much real estate,
we're talking prime real estate.
And that many generations, because as the years go past, you'll be talking about 2, 3, 4 generations.
Legacy.
Right. You also have to remember that your power and influence far exceeds your property.
Right.
You're talking about you now control the politicians in your area.
That's right.
You have a large voting block.
Right.
You have a whole lot of kids going to the schools in that area, so you have control over the schools.
So you're bringing money to the you have bringing money to your own infrastructure.
Talking about power moves. You're talking about power moves.
See, the most gated community, our gated community in New York City is Park Avenue. There's no commercial traffic on Park Avenue from 4th Street to 97th Street. You can't go. Fed Express and all the delivery places have to park on the side. Now, once you get past 97th Street, if you look up Park Avenue, all you see are projects on both sides. Now, that tells me you got Park Avenue is one of the most elite addresses in the world. Now, you live on Park Avenue at Madison. Right there it says you got primo property. Why wouldn't you take care of it? And that's the issue I have when I tell people, when I speak to the community. I said, guys, this is you. This is where your grandma, this is where your mother lived, your grandmother lived. Why wouldn't you want to take care of this?
And when you control large swaths of the richest city in the United States of America,
if not the country, in the world.
If not the world. When you factor in influence, which goes far beyond money, you are talking about the richest, most influential city in the world, in the history of the world.
That's right.
When you control large areas, and you're controlling the politics of that area, and you're controlling the school system in that area, and you are producing the children that goes to the school system that you control all of this area. And that means the politician in the school, that translates into better sanitation. That transfers into fixing the streets, pruning your trees.
That transfer to fixing the things inside your apartment.
That is correct.
We have an issue now in one project where Bill de Blasio, the mayor, came on and said, you know, there was no lead problem in the project.
Right.
And now there's a $1 trillion lawsuit because the child in his apartment, they showed, had eaten lead paint.
And before I came here, I was watching the local news station, and one of the newscasters, her like grandmother or something, is 100 years old, and she was getting evicted from her apartment.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because she's been there forever. And
Over
she
60
pays
years,
like less than $150 a month.
Right.
She's 100 years old.
Right.
You know, so she's probably been there since World War II.
Right, that's exactly right.
We had the same exact incidents with Florence Rice.
That's exactly right.
The exact same instrument. At the time, thing to go down. At the time, she was 86.
Right. Now, Miss Rice is what,
98. She's 98. And she had been in the building since 1945. Now, what they did with Miss Rice was refuse to do anything in her apartment.
Right.
And what we had on our favor was the power of television.
Right.
And the power of producers.
Right.
Being a grassroots movement that could reach out farther than their own borough to show issues. And Miss Florence M. Rice is a living legend.
Yes, she is.
So when people found out that she was in trouble, because at the time we had people at M&N who would just like play the show. Well, we went out and we got the show. Veronica went out and she shot stuff. David X shot it first because I was supposed to go, but I had something else. I had another place to be, and he went out there and he brings this footage back, and we showing the show, and he's saying I showed the footage, so I'm rolling it. And I'm directing, and while I'm directing, I'm rolling this footage, and I'm looking at it, and I'm directing, but one part of me is directing what's in front of the thing, and they're talking about it, and another part of me is looking at the other screen, and he's like, of the footage that he shot, you know, and he'll do it, wind it fast and show me some stuff, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, oh my God. So what happened, since they were talking about this thing, and he had the footage, I started rolling in the footage while they were talking about it. Needless to say, it caught fire in the community.
It did.
I mean, I had people calling in saying, "Set it off, man. Set it off."
I remember that. That went on for years.
Miss Rice is such a tremendous person that when M&N saw what was going on, they took the show, put it in heavy rotation, and every single time they had a slot open, they shot it. I had producers in Brooklyn that I had worked with because I was working at ELA down the street, so I worked with a whole lot of people. Producers in Brooklyn took the show and put it in their own time slots and rolled it over and over again. One of my boss at ELA became program director at BronxNet when he and he was one of the guys. Him and Tony Riddle was the ones when Florence, because I knew Florence Rice because she used to shoot her show at ELA, and then ELA closed down and they built co-ops. And she was over here. She didn't have anybody to do a show. So
and Tony Riddle now is a program director at
Brick Art. Brick Art.
We're coming, Tony. We're coming.
But between him and David Jenkins, who was my boss at ELA, both of them came down. One was program director at BronxNet. That was David Jenkins. And Tony was executive director at M&N. They both told me that if I didn't look out for Miss Rice, my ass was grass, and I wasn't going to get a show in.
And you end up directing her show.
Yeah, for years.
Yeah, for years. Right. Because Miss Rice followed my show. Right.
That's how I ended up with this footage.
Right.
So when all of these people saw what was going on, Gil Noble was still alive on Like It Is.
Right.
He rolled in the footage, aired the show. There was a guy, a Puerto Rican guy, Arnold Diaz, I think it was, at Fox of all places, who ran it over and over again. So all of a sudden, there was this perfect storm where it was
everywhere
Florence
you turn.
M. Rice, all day, everywhere you turn.
Right.
And the lawyers, all the politicians, Charles Barron and them had a Florence Rice day.
Right.
He harpooned
was Rangel and all those guys, wasn't
he harpooned Bloomberg. Bloomberg was coming up City Hall. I'm shooting this stuff, and Charles Barron is on the steps of City Hall, and they're talking about Florence Rice Day, and we all in doing this thing for Florence Rice, and they're talking about the issue that she's going with. And the lawyer had already told Miss Rice she didn't have a chance. He was going to bury her.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, told it to her face. And so you got Charles Rangel, and he starts grabbing because he was in the city council.
Right.
So he grabs Tish James, and he I mean, just anybody who came to City Hall made him stand there and get down with Miss Rice. And Bloomberg walked in with like 2 big black bodyguards, and they grabbed Bloomberg, and Bloomberg started taking pictures of Miss Rice and whatnot. So by the time it got to court,
it was
the lawyer against that was working for the
city,
for the big real estate developer, just wanted this old woman out of his hair.
Right.
You know. So he ended up signing a deal. They ended up signing a deal in court where Miss Rice stayed there for as long as she lived, as long as she wanted to.
She still has that apartment, doesn't she? She lives upstate now, doesn't
well, she lives upstate. When she turned 97, right before her 98th birthday, her daughter came and got her and said, you know, it's time to come home. We need to take care of you. Because I was looking forward to producing the show with her 100th birthday at M&N.
Well, remember we just celebrated her 98th birthday here.
Her 98th. Right. In March, 99 is coming up. You know.
But see, my thing is too, see, the city now is trying to take back the HDFCs. Or the real estate developers are.
Well, you can't get elected dog catcher without the real estate industry. That's the whole thing. There's so many things going on. Like I said, they're trying to evict a 100-year-old woman from her house.
Where was that apartment? Where does she live?
It's in Manhattan. It's in Manhattan. I don't know why they couldn't wait. I mean, she's 100 years old.
Right.
Renting her apartment is not going to change your life.
Because you're already making money.
You rich.
Right.
Her little money is.
But see, this is what's going to happen is another Florence Rice again.
Yes, because her granddaughter is New York 1, so it's going to be headaches for them. If I was them, I would just
let it ride out.
Let it ride out.
Yeah, let it ride out. Right.
Because they ended up letting Miss Rice stay there for $1 a month. Until she didn't want it no more.
But you know what? That's what most landlords.
She was 86.
Mm-hmm.
And she left at 98. So that's 12 years of $1 a month. And Pinnacle Real Estate ended up giving her a whole lot of money. Some other people did some stuff. But and celebrating her birthday with her. To let some of that hero stuff rub up.
I remember that.
But that's one of the reasons. That's one of the biggest reasons why I like having you here. Because we have an opportunity to actually talk about what can be accomplished through doing for self and entrepreneurism. So we do stuff like bring in Roy Paul, who's teaching financial literacy,
Two
and
children,
and we bring in assembly persons, and we talk about taxes and whatnot.
Right.
It's not just one issue all the time, because cussing out Whitey in and of itself is not a revolutionary action.
Right. And it's
you
not gonna
still
get you
got to
anywhere.
do something.
Right. We still got to have action.
I mean, you got it. You can cuss them out all you want, as long as when it's time to saddle up.
Right. Saddle
get
up.
on that damn horse. You know.
That's right.
And we're riding in the battle. And there's no guarantee we're gonna win. The only guarantee is we ain't going down like no chumps.
And that's the thing I try to tell these people, the people out there. So guys, listen. New York has prime real estate.
Right.
And if you live in public housing, NYCHA housing, if you live in Manhattan, you got the primo addresses.
Right.
You got the Lower East Side. Nat lives in Lower East Side, but not too far from you. The East Village. I'm sorry, the East Village. Look at those projects. And I say projects on the East River.
Right.
And we're talking,
and they want those bad.
They want them bad. We're talking 30, 40 stories.
And,
when you look out the window, you're looking into the East River and the Brooklyn Bridge.
They're trying to consume Esplanade. They already consumed Delano.
Right.
This is all prime
real estate. That's just going up to FDR.
Life-changing wealth. Right. You can change your communities. You can change your legacy.
Right.
You can. I mean, you can. And remember, when you now control your community, and you control the schools, you also control the children's education going into those schools.
That's
so you're sending in ragamuffins, but you're bringing back lawyers,
doctors, engineers,
engineers.
That's exactly right.
You know, so you're bringing back power into your community.
Because I tell people all the time that don't wait on things to happen for you.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And I'm telling you guys, if you live in these inner city projects,
whatever rolls down the hill ain't gonna be good.
No, it's never. No,
it ain't good.
It's not working out to your advantage, right?
Down the hill is not
but
gonna
I
be
tell
your
you
advantage
guys
at the
all
bottom.
the time. I say, listen, don't wait for someone to come to you. It's enough people in your building that you can form your own. It doesn't even have to be formal. Just form enough coalition of people.
But you have to have the mindset to work collectively. Because you're not going to do it by yourself.
Like these guys at the HDFC places.
Right.
These places were crime-ridden. You walk in a hall, it smells like urine.
You're talking about during the apex of the crack epidemic.
Absolutely.
You know, so crime-ridden is an understatement.
And I tell these people, like, you know, in the inner city projects, like in Manhattan, you don't need to walk into the elevator and smell urine.
Right.
So you have to first.
You're lucky if that's your only problem.
Right, that's right.
And in the crack era, walking into the elevator,
you might get mugged.
You might get dead. You might get raped and dead.
Right, that's right.
It was a horrible. There's a lot of projects that are still overrun with gangs.
First Avenue.
Young people who
First Avenue in the 90s.
No idea of what a future would entail.
Right.
You have to provide some sort of light at the end of the tunnel.
That's right.
And a lot of people, and that's Trump's. And I want to make sure we touch on this. Because I want to talk about Cyntoia Brown.
So let's talk about Cyntoia Brown right now. We come back. We'll finish it up with Cyntoia Brown.
Yeah. And then I want to get to Trump and his tax plan.
Okay.
And then I want to get to poor whites who act against not only their best interests, but the best interests of their children and grandchildren.
Brown. Let's talk about Cyntoia Brown. Talk about Cyntoia Brown. She was this young kid, a teenager, who was a prostitute.
Right. Well, she wasn't.
She's allegedly.
No, she was a child
slave
prostitute. Right. Child trafficking prostitute. So she wasn't just what was the pimp's name? Cutthroat. Cutthroat. What kind of, and she was he sold her as a prostitute for the use by a 43-year-old man.
Right.
And somewhere in this. First of all, I'm not a slaver, so I wouldn't be. I don't believe in buying old people, much less children. I'm certainly not a child rapist.
Stop that.
Hey, listen, I'm only disappointed that she ended up killing this guy, because somebody like this certainly deserves death.
Right.
And they deserve death from grown people.
Right. Somebody else should have taken that on. Right.
Somebody should make a statement to all of you sons of whatever.
Pedophiles.
Right, you child rapists.
Right. That's right.
Pedophilia is too hoity-toity a word. Child rapists, that this behavior is not acceptable.
Right, under any circumstances.
So she ended up killing this guy, shooting this guy, killing him, and then she took money, his wallet and stuff, and they ended up giving her life. She's 16 years old when this happened.
Right. Life imprisonment.
Right.
Plus
8 years for the robbery.
Now, come on. Life is like that. That was in the state
she'll
of.
She'll be eligible for parole when she's 69. It's Tennessee.
Yeah, and she's 30, 29?
She's 29
now, right.
So she's already been in jail 13 years.
That's crazy. That's insane.
A documentary came out about this in like 2011.
Right.
And slowly the internet picked up on this. And now there are more powerful people
trying to help.
Right. Because this is ridiculous.
Right.
Now, one of the issues that we have is white women have a collective movement.
Right.
About harassment in the workplace.
Right.
In some instances, it's simple sexual harassment, and other instances, it's
rape.
Out and out rape.
Right.
In the case of Roy Paul, he's been accused of child rape.
Yes, multiple times.
Multiple times.
Right.
So much so that he was barred from a mall. From a mall. How the hell did I mean?
He only not got banned from a mall, but the child that he pursued, he went to her high school, went to her elementary school or junior high school, went to the principal's office and asked the principal to call her to the office on the PA system.
That's a white folks thing, because black folks, like I said, you can't get your parents to come to your damn school on parent-teacher day. Much less call your school.
Right.
Usually your school is calling you.
Right. Your kid ain't been to school.
Your kid ain't been to school. And your boss is mad at you for taking phone calls.
But you know what? Donald Trump has not spoken about that.
No, and he's spoken about that, but he's spoken to support Roy Moore.
We didn't mean Roy Paul. We meant Roy Moore. Because Roy Paul was a friend of ours.
No, we're talking about the other, the only white man. He's called to defend Roy Moore. They've even had, to show you, and this is Alabama, to show you there's something wrong with rednecks. Not only are they defending Roy Moore, but there have been women politicians
the governor.
In Alabama,
the governor,
who says she believes the charges, but she's still going to vote for him because she needs his voice to elect judges to the Supreme Court. And I'm thinking,
hold on.
A child rapist? What kind of judge?
Wait, hold on a second. Back up. What kind of judge gets, what kind of person, a DA gets barred from the mall and become a judge?
Right.
That's
an Alabama person.
An Alabama
person.
Right. Donald Trump was more concerned about LeVar Ball.
Correct.
Than that.
Correct. And taking credit for it.
Which something he didn't do.
But even if he did it, nobody takes credit for it. That's your job. That's your job. You don't give me no credit for doing my job. You tell me I didn't come in early enough. Yeah, it's done now.
But this is the world
next
we
time
live in.
Be in 15 minutes early.
But this is where it has to stop. This is just straight out unacceptable ignorance.
The truly ignorance, the sad part is that a person told you that as a star, a person who had a history of peeping in the Miss Universe locker rooms,
The dressing rooms, right.
while these girls was getting naked.
Right.
The person who was on camera saying that you could
grab it.
grab by the vagina, and that vagina is not the word he used.
No, he did, right.
And get elected president of the United States. The highest office of the most powerful country in the history of the world.
How's that work? How's that work? How's that happen?
The same person who promised you, and you still support this person who promised you that he was going to keep coal mines open, even though but not only that, the largest coal mines in the country are closing at record numbers. One company is closing 37 coal mines.
Right. Nobody uses coal anymore.
Even China, who desperately relies on coal and needs coal, says we're not going to do this anymore. It's just too dirty.
But these ignorant people still fall for the old okie doke.
These are ignorant poor people.
Yes.
The tax package that they're talking about. The tax package that
it's going to make them pay more taxes.
It's going to destroy poor people.
Yep.
Anybody who makes less than $100,000 a year is going to pay through the nose.
That's exactly right.
By getting rid of the Affordable Care Act, they've already slit their own throats.
Right. When you had Obamacare, when you had black lung, and you said you didn't want it, now you're not going to have anything.
Getting rid of the individual mandate to the tax package, and some of the poorest white people who are so poor that there's nothing they know to do but go shoot up a black church.
That's right.
Is down with this robber baron who is going to make their lives more of a living hell than it already is. It's just amazing. It's just amazing.
Let me tell you. I don't get it. I don't get it that, he's been in office almost a year and has accomplished absolutely
nothing. He has accomplished a whole lot on the
judges.
negative side, not just with the judges, but he's done things with the pen that he couldn't do through legislation.
Right.
So he brings in a guy he's literally smashed a hole in fiduciary responsibility for large institutions.
That's exactly right.
So any person who relies on saving their money and trying to get a little stocks or 401k, he sold you down the river. Your money, you might as well have given your money to the devil himself because he's wiped out fiduciary responsibility.
Totally. And left it up to Wall Street to handle it any way they want.
Correct.
See, when Obama did it, he put things in place.
That is correct.
And see, if Obama didn't do anything, why is it that this guy is going back to try to undo everything?
Everything he did. And Obama did it at the only time that it could be done was they had already literally we were this close to global financial meltdown.
That's right.
This close to global financial meltdown. And the only way that this could be repaired was massive infusion from the government to the tune of trillions of dollars to save the banks.
Save our economy.
That is, and the only way that they could put in all of these fiduciary laws and bylaws was he had them by the short hair, and it wouldn't happen again.
So it wouldn't happen again. Now he literally saved this country from disaster.
Correct.
And when this country falls financially, it's a domino effect throughout the world.
So, there is no world without the U.S. dollar.
So now here's the thing.
What's up, what's down.
Everything is dependent on our dollar.
Everything is.
Whether our dollar is weak or strong, people want the dollar. That's exactly right.
I don't care whether it's more than the dollar, like the pound or the euro, or less than the dollar, like everything else. Everything, the world is pegged to the U.S. economy.
But this is the mindset that these people don't understand. That's why I say these people. Now, Obama saved this world from a brink of disaster to put in the fiduciary responsibility so this will not happen again. So dude comes by and undoes it. Undo it. I'm sorry. So that could possibly happen again. When the SNLs went under,
Right.
And when the banks
Right.
fell with the mortgage crisis, Obama came back and said, "Okay, this is the way we're going to do."
They didn't just fall. They control the top three rating agencies.
Right, that's right.
So,
Moody's, yep,
right.
Standard & Poor's, yep.
Right. So what happened was, even though they had all of these sham financial instruments,
crazy.
They control the financial institutions, control the ratings game that rated them as A+.
When they were junk.
Right, when they were junk.
When they were junk.
When they weren't worth the paper they were printed on.
And that's
they were
what
less
happened.
than junk.
That's
they were
what
nothing.
happened. That's what happened when a person made $30,000 a year and said, "Okay, your mortgage is going to be $900 a year, and you can live in $1 million house."
Correct.
But forget to tell them.
Correct.
There's no doc loans. Forget to tell them that if the interest rate, you got a variable interest rate, so you got an 8% interest rate now, but next year you got a 40% interest rate.
So it's like I have a paper bag.
Right.
Full of doo-doo.
Right.
But I tell you, the paper bag is full of gold.
Right. Just trust me.
Right, just trust me.
Just
trust me. And I sell you this paper bag full of doo-doo as if it was gold. I sell it to you for $1 million.
Right.
You say, well, I paid $1 million for it.
Right.
Now, inflation has made it worth $2 million.
Right.
As long as you keep the bag closed and keep selling it,
keep selling it on and on.
The moment somebody opens the bag,
with nothing backing it.
That's right.
With
Nothing
no value.
That's
no
right.
value
That's
at all.
That's right.
But what happened was one person just
looked
in the bag.
Right.
What happened?
And it was over. It was over.
And that's a true story.
That's a true story. That's exactly what happened.
That's what happened when all these mortgages became these mortgage-backed securities became worthless.
Right. And I can't say it's gold.
Right.
I need the rating agencies to say it's gold.
So we got somebody right here. You got a bag of doodle.
All of them.
Right.
So,
you gonna say, yo,
we're paying them
to say it's gold. AAA.
Right.
So you're gonna say it to me, and I'm like, okay, oh my God, I'm gonna take these AAA ratings.
Right.
And it's worth $2 million.
Right.
And we're gonna keep circulating, and we all gonna make money.
Right.
Until that one cat, young guy.
Right.
Second year out of college, look in the bag.
It's doo-doo.
This is crap.
Right.
This is crap.
Right. As long as nobody looked in the bag, it was gold. As soon as they looked at it,
and they didn't even think these biggest institutions.
They told the young guy to get the hell out of Dodge.
Right.
So
they fired him.
Right.
They fired him.
So what he did?
All these.
So he shorted the world.
He really did. Yeah. He shorted the world.
Said, well, the hell with it.
But the thing was, all these places like Lehman's.
Right.
Lehman.
That's right.
Thousands of years went out of business.
That's right. They were the
Goldman
ones.
Sachs.
They insured it.
Yes.
So it's not just
you insured doo-doo.
Right. You can't. It's not just enough to get the rating agencies to lie and say it's gold. Then you have to insure it as if it was gold. So they literally, everybody had trillions and trillions of dollars of everybody else's money. But see, everybody is in the world's money.
But then all these guys were making money.
Right.
Off this worthless doo-doo.
Because it was doo-doo that they were selling to each other and doubling their profit.
But the thing of it is, they all knew it was doo-doo.
Right.
But if I say, okay, Nat, you know what?
Right.
You know what? This is good, but don't look in it. All right. Trust me, you don't want to look in it. You're gonna take your money and keep selling it, and keep selling it, and going on and on. And guys, let me tell you, that is a very true story about these mortgage-backed securities.
Right.
And that's what brought down the S&Ls.
Right.
That's what brought down the banks. And Obama had to come back and save it. Now you can call it socialist, you can call it whatever. But if Obama didn't do it, our world as we know it wouldn't be here.
No.
So you can say whatever you want about Barack Obama, but think about it. He put in the fiduciary
Europe is still not gotten over this. Iceland went
bankrupt.
Right. From like
Greece.
the richest people on the planet.
Right.
Nothing but spending money and sniffing drugs. You know,
Greece was the same way.
Right.
Greece was the same way.
Still have not gotten over this.
You could only way they had a run on the banks in Greece, and most you can get out of $60.
All of this Brexit stuff. all of this Puerto Rico owned
Right.
by the hedge funds.
Right.
All
Think
of
about
this
that.
is directly a direct result
Right.
of the crap that
Because
happened.
that's what happened with
Right,
Puerto Rico.
right,
Puerto
right.
Rico, they're selling it. They're taking all this paper
Right.
back from Puerto Rico,
Right.
knowing that they couldn't pay the debt.
Correct.
So look at what's
Correct.
what's happening in Puerto
Correct.
Rico.
Correct.
Puerto Rico has
Correct.
a 76% unemployment rate.
Correct.
You know, I'm sorry, more than that, like 13%
Correct.
of employment rate that's
Correct.
happening in
Correct.
Puerto Rico.
Correct.
Puerto Rico, as we know it, is no longer. It would
Right.
never come.
Right.
It wasn't anything after they
Right.
pillaged all the commodities from, and then they went into debt. Now the hurricane.
Right. Now, we only have one recourse, and we're kind of running out of time. But we have one recourse. That is to take control of our lives
Yep.
and our community.
That's right.
Stop relying on robber barons to lie to you and tell you there's a solution when all that they really want to do is bring you more and more problems.
That's right.
We're going to have to take control of our communities,
That's
our
first.
houses,
We have to take
our
community-
schools.
take control of our life first.
Right, our lives.
lives
We
first.
got
Take
to
a-
change the way we think and the
Right.
way we act.
Right.
We have to change the way we think and act within our own immediate
Right.
household.
That's exactly right. That's where it starts.
And that has to start from the inside
Right.
out.
That's right.
And things are so thick now, and things are happening so fast that if you miss an opportunity, you might never get another shot at another one.
It's not that if.
Right.
When you miss
it's
this,
win now.
It's just
right.
win. You missed the opportunity. When that missed opportunity comes,
Right.
you're done. It's a
Right.
wrap for you.
Right.
It's a wrap for you.
Right.
You know, you'll no longer be able to live in New York City.
Right.
You know,
anywhere. It's
for
not
that matter.
just New York City.
Look at Detroit.
Right.
Look at Chicago.
Right.
You know, and the South is just out of control.
It's out of control.
You know?
We have poor people running to the South, but the South is the poorest region
Oh my God. Georgia's going to be the next state to fall.
Correct.
All
Correct.
our African Americans are running to Atlanta.
Georgia,
Tennessee,
Alabama,
Mississippi.
Tennessee, Texas is still good because
Yep,
they got
and
oil
oil.
up the wazoo.
Yep.
But
everything-
all the rest of you,
Yep.
all of the rest of you
Look-
little red states, while you're so busy trying to make the lives of people who struggle worse and worse
Right.
because you
You're
think
right.
they got too much color on
Right,
their
yeah,
face.
you're racist.
What you should be doing is bonding with other like-minded people who have the same concerns
Right.
that you have
And
and
change
try
it.
to take control
Take it all,
because
take it all.
Roy Moore ain't your friend.
No, let me say this. I'll let you get the last word. Guys, you know what? I thank you guys for watching us. We come to you every week live, uncut, and tell you how it is. Remember this. My name is Greg Lasser. Shoot for the moon. If you miss, you are still among the stars, and I'll see you next week. Nat, you get the last word. It's your show.
I want to say thank you for tuning in. We are getting better and better. We're going to be bringing you more and more things. I really appreciate the job Greg does.
Thank you.
Over the holidays, we're going to have the women back to do Women's Takeover. We got some
Incredible stuff.
Right, we
Yeah,
got some good
incredible
stuff coming, and we're going to try not to dishonor ourselves by giving you less than you deserve.
That's
So
it,
we're gonna, if we mess it up, it ain't because we didn't try.
Right. And guys, do know this is that we do have a live show. This show is definitely live. We just don't take any
Yeah,
calls.
it's
I would love
live.
to take your calls, but we don't because it detracts us from what we're talking about because we
Right.
want to get everybody
Peace,
calling.
we're gone.
We're out of here. Thank you guys.